I want time for my kids. I want time for our health, time for relationships, time for friendship. So I want to build with this set amount of time because this is not changing. And I've got to figure out how to turn these wheels to make this block work. Um, and that, you have to decide, like, are you willing to sacrifice growth to make that happen? And my answer was yes.
Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald, interior designer, mama, and CEO of a thriving interior design business built on authentic word-of-mouth referrals. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate architecture job to build my own dream, one that would allow me more time with the people that I love, the ability to serve my clients at the highest level, and to make a great living. It wasn't always easy, and I've made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. This podcast is for you, the inspired, creative, ambitious, and let's admit it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives by transforming homes. Join me and my guest each week as we walk through practical ways to build an interior design business you love and helps you transform your clients' lives. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it. Hello there, and welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm sitting down to chat with my friend and fellow interior designer, Whitney Walker of Farrington Lane, a boutique interior design studio based in Austin, Texas. Whitney and I first met when I lived in Texas, and we became fast friends, sharing our love for antiques and unique interiors with a strong story. There's so much to love about Whitney, but perhaps one of the things I'm drawn to the most about her is her distinct point of view about design. Whitney knows what she loves and has very intentionally designed a brand that attracts the kind of clients who appreciate the same things. Whitney's interiors are rich and layered. They are sophisticated, but also whimsical. They are informed by history and her clients' stories. The part that really blows me away is the fact that she has birthed this company from its infancy into what it is today, all while birthing 3 real human beings. That is 3 little boys under the age of 6 years old. Whitney is absolutely delightful. She's raw, she's honest, and despite the trail she's blazing in her career, she's incredibly humble. I am so grateful to have had the chance to sit down and chat with her today. I know you will enjoy hearing from her too. Please welcome my friend, Whitney Walker. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello. I am doing pretty well. How are you?
I can't complain. Happy Friday. It's so good to get to hang out with you today and chat about business.
I know. It's good to see your face. I miss these in-person chats on your sofa in Waco.
I know. Oh my gosh. I miss you so much. Well, we're long overdue for a hangout session. I'm supposed to be back in Texas this summer, so I'll make sure that we at least attempt to get together. I'm there. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm thrilled. You and I have had a number of, so backstory for the folks listening. Whitney is a friend of mine. We met, she's an interior designer in Texas. We met when I lived in Waco. And Farrington Lane is her business, and you need to pause this episode and go follow her on Instagram because she curates the absolute most beautiful interiors and shows them off there. And the algorithm has definitely picked up that I like your stuff because I feel like I never miss a post because the algorithm's like, she likes Farrington Lane. Let's keep showing her that. So it sure is fun. It always is a delight. So yeah, but anyway, you and I over the years have just had some fabulous conversations around business, parenting, design, clients, all the things. And I just finally was like, you know what? We just need to sit down and share this, like talk about it and share it with other designers. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so Whitney, you're joining us from Austin. Tell me, what are you working on right now that has you excited?
Yeah. Well, we're wrapping up a big project that we've been doing the past, I guess it's really 2 years now, but between design and construction, transforming a 1990s suburban build
But
into
why?
into more of a custom home pretty much.
Yeah.
We moved the walls, we added on, and um we're in the midst of wrapping that up. And the crazy supply chain, we ordered all of our furniture last January, and some of it's still not here, so that those have been some fun phone calls.
Yeah.
But that's been great. The client came to the table with a really strong point of view, and so we've been able to enhance some of her ideas and collaborate, and it's really, really lovely the way
Oh
it's
my
turning out.
gosh.
So that's fun to get to see,
Yeah.
that longer, bigger
Oh my
project
gosh,
come
that
to
final
fruition.
stretch is always hard, but so
The
worth it.
final stretch. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was a big one. We're excited to see it all. And then working on, we kind of just wrapped up like a little mini reno of a New Orleans loving family in a house that was built as a
Oh,
replica of the Magnolia Mound plantation in Louisiana, and that was
oh my,
really fun. We got to use
wow.
some really great lighting and colors, and they're hoping to do kind of a phase two later with all the furnishings and soft goods. Um, and then also working with some dear friends of mine, on we started it kind of grew. We started just doing her office and nursery, and then they said, never mind, we're going to sell our house and we're going to buy this one and we're going to remodel and do all these things. So it's kind of a project that grew. But she loves color and loves the Southwest and loves original art, and appreciates craftsmanship. So that's been kind of kismet. It's been fun.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
and then we have some other, I don't, we have some smaller things. I'm hoping this to kind of like whittle this down. We have some other, I think probably like 5 other smaller things that were in different stages.
Yeah.
So, but we've got some great clients. So
Oh.
we're grateful.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to see this labor of love and how it shows up. I want to back up a little bit because you just pointed to a couple of things that I really want to get into shortly, but talking about point of view in design, and you clearly have been able to attract the kind of clients who appreciate the same things that you do, color, architecture, history, all of those things. So we'll get to that. We're going to dive into that in a bit, but I want us to kind of step back a little bit and take us back to little baby Whitney. When you were a kid, what were you like? Did you, when you look back now, do you see roads pointing to this career?
I do. Not super obviously. It wasn't like, oh, this is for sure happening or anything. But I loved art. I loved creating. I loved reading. I spent a lot of time reading. My parents were very gracious and let me um, redo my room a couple times, which is like not happening for my kids. I'm like, no, I'm in charge of that.
Samesies.
So it's
My
very, that's
10-year-old,
very
well, my
generous of
daughter,
them.
my oldest is about to turn 10 and she wants to redo her room. And I'm like, yes, of course. You're going to get 3 options for this, that, and everything else. And I will curate it and you can pick from what I give you.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. You have your own
Um,
house one day and pay your own mortgage and you can do whatever the heck you want.
right.
Sorry.
Right.
Sorry, not sorry. So your
Which
parents were like, go for it.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a blank check situation, but it was like,
Sure.
I got to lean toward, it was things they were wanting to do anyway. So I got input in on it. And um, yeah, so just have always really loved art, really loved making art, creating things with my hands. My grandmother taught me to do some embroidery, which I still
Oh,
love
wow.
embroidery. It's like one of my favorite textiles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, definitely some breadcrumbs. But I kind of have like the typical, as you can see, creative entrepreneurial spirit that is not always super linear. And my room was my poor mom. I had three brothers, and she was just trying to wrangle all four of us, and we were all very stubborn and strong-willed, and my room was a disaster a lot of the time
That
because I was
is,
just,
yeah.
you know,
You were working. It
making
was
and
your
creating.
workshop.
I was
Yeah.
working. I was working. It
You
was
were
good
working.
preparation.
I love it. Well, for anybody who's not watching, I am getting a sneak peek into your beautiful office, which I love. One of my favorite books is Creative Spaces. Oh my gosh, I'm saying it and I can't look back because it's not on my bookshelf because it's inside, but it's a photography book of creative women in their workspaces. And I'm spacing on the
Oh
name, but I'll
yeah.
find it and I'll link to it. But I just absolutely love seeing the way other people work. I do. No, so you have three boys, right? So you come
Yes.
by now. I didn't realize you had three brothers. You were one of four. And did you say you're the only girl, but where were you not that this has anything to do with what we're talking about today. I'm just interested. Where were you in the birth order?
I was second. So I have two
Okay.
younger brothers and one older brother.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And now today
But
you have three little boys.
yes,
And how old are they?
yes, they are 6, 4, and 1.5. Will be
Oh
two
my
in May.
God. I just had my breath taken away. So you have not only taken three real breathing humans out of their infancy into young adult life, but you've done this alongside really ramping your design career up. So we're gonna talk about that. Um, when you have three boys, I feel like there is this code that boy moms have that it's like this little nod that you can give each other. Do you feel like that? I don't know this experience for myself because I have
Yes,
girls, but you do.
yes, for
You're like,
sure.
I see you.
Yes. Yeah, they are a lot, like a lot. The energy, the chaos, the tumbling, rumbling, the breaking, the throwing, the mama loving, which is
Uh-huh.
so sweet, but it's a lot. My youngest right now gets super jealous if anybody else is in my lap. So like
Oh,
last night, somehow I ended up on the floor in our kitchen in the corner of our cabinets. I think I was like putting a shoe back on. I don't know. And then it was
as
like
a
a
mom
dog pile
does.
of all three of them.
Oh,
Yes, his mom does. And
oh,
my husband walked in and was like, "What? How did this happen?" I'm like, "There was some jealousy." And it ended up and I'm in the bottom of a dog pile.
that's precious.
It's
I
cute
absolutely
and
love it.
sad.
And I believe I see a superhero mask laying on your fabric collection back there.
Good eye, Kate. Good
Yeah.
eye. This is Black Panther mask.
Very cool.
I had a visit yesterday.
Very cool. I
And
love it.
I did not fully realize, I apologize to those of you watching, that this would be on video. So here's just in
Zero.
the raw.
Stop. We're not apologizing. Nobody's apologizing. Stop apologizing. You're good. We love
Studio.
it. We love it. We
Okay.
love it. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. So you went to college at Baylor.
Mhm.
Did you get a degree in interior design, or where did things start for you
I did,
professionally? Tell me about that little
I did
journey.
not.
Little journey. It's not little, big.
You know, when you go to college and you're a little baby and you don't know what you want to do,
Mhm.
I went into Baylor saying, okay, I either want to go to law school or get my degree in interior design, which I ended up doing neither. About a year in, I started thinking, I do think I want to do interior design. Um, and I talked to my parents about it. And my dad comes from a family of he and his brothers were all entrepreneurs. Um, I don't know. I think he'd be okay with me sharing this, but he actually dropped out of college and was like, I think I should just go ahead and start a company and start
Mhm.
working.
Yeah.
So not the not the you know anyway, not the conventional route for those who are seeking higher education, which I've always thought was admirable because I'm like, wow, that's just so brave. So but my parents, that being said, my parents kind of advised me, if you want to do interior design, you should get your business degree and then just start your own studio,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't come from a background of liberal. Well, my mom has an English degree, but they don't, you know, as far as like the design industry and the history of architecture and art, and like that's not their wheelhouse. And so, um,
Felt like the practical thing to
certainly
do.
it's, yeah. And now I'm like, oh, I could really use that design degree about now,
No,
but
my gosh, it's
kind
innate. It's innate. You are an artist.
so playing, doing as much learning and reading and um catch up as I can along the way with some of those things. But yeah, so that's ultimately what I did is I got my degree in economics, actually in Spanish, where I got a lot of actually art history and Spanish lit. I think I took more Spanish classes than business. It was crazy. It was just so many hours. Um, and didn't start out in design right out of school. Was a manager and buyer for a little clothing boutique, while my husband was in grad school at Baylor, and then getting his master's. And then he was accepted to a PhD program in Los Angeles, and we moved there. And I worked for a fashion startup tech company. Actually, Zoe Saldana and her then fiance started together. I worked for them. And at night was going home and still just like devouring all things interior design and
Mm-hmm.
reading everything I could and just like wishing I was in that industry. Like, how do I get started there? How do I start moving that direction to get the experience that I need?
Mm-hmm.
And it was really wild, actually. I just went home one day and was like, okay, where would I love to work right now to sort of move that direction? And I said, One Kingsley. I love one. Like, I was
Yeah.
watching their tastemaker tag sales going up and just, I loved all their editorial content, everything. So I said, I wonder if they have an office in LA. So I
Yeah.
literally just their careers page and saw, oh, they do have an office in LA. I wonder if they have any job openings, and saw a job opening and applied. And after like a 6 hour interview marathon,
Oh my
ended
gosh.
up getting an entry level position there, which kind of got my foot in the industry door. And that was
Wow.
the story. That was the start.
I love that you were just
Long
like,
story. Sorry.
I no, no, this is great. I'm hanging on every word. I love that you're just like, I wonder if, and did your research, opened Google, did the
Mhm.
things, and that's where these things begin. And there's a lot of people though that they just have that question of, or maybe they don't have that question. Maybe they don't have that sort of gumption to say like, I wonder if, and then imagine the possibilities and then also be able to act on that. And it's just obviously paid dividends for you in your career. Did you start, so you worked for One Kings Lane. Did you start
Mhm.
out working on their tastemaker team?
Yes.
Tell me about
I
that. What were you doing day to day? That sounds like such a fun job.
it was really fun. And it was, in my mid 20s. It was, well, how old was I? 24. We were young. And I think I was the only married person on my team at that time. So that was also interesting. So it was just different culture going from like, you know, a bunch of it was just a lifestyle style shift. Like we were just
Sure.
working really long hours. And then everybody'd say, like, let's go get drinks after work. And I'd be like, oh, I want to see my husband. But it was a tech startup, in
Yeah.
addition to being in the design industry. So it was I had made some of my best friends who I'm still in contact with every day, in the time that I worked there. And it was like drinking from a fire hose because we
Sure.
were
Yeah.
working with some of the top designers in the country. And what they did was some of them had their own collection. Like we worked with Kelly Wersler, for instance, to do her brand, her tastemaker tag sale. And she had airplane hangers full of inventory of her from her personal collection.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? How I'm not surprised, but
No,
how
it was amazing.
cool.
It was really cool.
Pause real quick for those of you that are listening, and if you're not familiar. So One Kings Lane, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially they collaborate with tastemakers and they say, because One King's Lane, well, why don't you explain it? Because instead of me trying to paraphrase, they have them
Yeah,
curate
sure.
collections.
Well, they started kind of like, so the whole business model was like a flash sale with these
Yeah.
things. And this was when that was kind of happening. And that was a hot business model in the what year, like 2010.
Yeah.
And they started opening up two sides of the business. There was a vintage and market finds business, and then there was um, what we call the tastemaker tag sale business. And then there was just like, now it's become like a big shopping platform too, where you can just go and you have access to some of the trade vendors and at a lower rate and some designer goods. So it was an e-commerce platform. But when we were first starting out, they were recruiting designers to curate. Some of them, pulled from the inventory from the brands that we carried, and some of them brought, their own vintage collection to the table, like stuff that they just had in storage or
Oh,
stuff that
this
they're
whole
repurposing
thing.
or yeah, this whole thing. So my job honestly was like refining their inventory on these like pages and pages of Excel spreadsheets and making sure the copy was right. And so it was like, every line item, it's like, oh, 19th century, blah, blah, blah. You kind of learn about a new antique piece or vintage piece and it was just like, thousands of SKUs that we went through.
Wow.
But on the front end of the sale, it was, of course, you were referencing Kelly Wersler. She had, we went to her airplane hangars and had like a 3-day photo shoot where we literally just set up a skim, whatever it's called, and shot product after product after product after product. It was wild. So just getting that kind of exposure to what some of the top designers in the country are saying, this is a beautiful thing, was pretty invaluable. And just learning about like what properties that had and what made it special, and that it really, that experience rung true with just my passion to connect to history and to know where a piece came from and what it was used for and who was it and who does it make you think of. Just the sentimentality connected to things is really a core value of our business.
Well, and that definitely shines today with the work and the projects that you are on today. Hey, designer, are you tired of wasting precious time with prospective clients who are not a right fit? Do you experience imposter syndrome because you know the back end of your business is kind of a hot mess? Perhaps you're experiencing growing pains and you don't have the tools, resources, or team to support you. I get it. I've been there. As an ambitious interior design business owner myself, I know the roller coaster ride this can be. Over the years, I've learned a thing or two about running a profitable word of mouth design business, and I want to help you find success too. How would it feel to wake up and face the day knowing exactly what to focus on next, having a roster of enthusiastic clients, including a paid waitlist, and having the space, time, and creative energy to develop projects that you are proud of and are portfolio, if not press-worthy? I want to invite you to learn more about the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint, a business coaching program designed exclusively for interior designers who want to serve their clients at the highest level while making good money, but without the burnout and overwhelm. If you're ready to get off the roller coaster, you don't have to do it alone. Join me inside the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint and get the tools, teaching, and community you need to pave the way for an interior design business your clients love and you are proud of. To learn more, grab the link on your audio player or head to designersoasis.com/blueprint. That's designersoasis.com/blueprint. So let's fast forward a little bit. Then I understand that you had a pretty influential experience working with Angie. Help me pronounce her last name.
Pronowski.
Haranowski. Tell
Pronowski. Yeah.
Haranowski. Tell me about your experience, how that ended up coming to be in your experience working with her, because it sounds like that was a pretty influential experience for you as well.
It was, yes. And before her, I worked for a small design studio here in Austin called Bay Hill Design and learned a ton from her too. And she's still one of my dear friends. But yes, when we realized we were moving to Charleston, I remembered that. Oh, actually, you know what? No, it was one of my friends, one of my best friends I referenced earlier from One Kings Lane said, "Oh, remember Andy Gronowski is in Charleston? We did that sale with her. She's amazing." And I was like,
Mm.
I do remember her sale. She is in Charleston. Um, so I pretty much just knocked on her door for 3 months until she agreed to let me like help her in some
As Whitney
capacity.
does. I love
She's
it.
like, please leave me alone. And I'm still a total fangirl. I'm like, anytime she posts anything, I'm like, Angie, you're amazing. But I really did. I did it, that. It was a short stint doing. And this was fascinating too. Doing more like marketing contract work for her and wanting
Mm.
to work for her full time. But we kind of were on this journey partly because of my husband's career, and we went to LA for his PhD, and then we came back to Austin um, for various reasons, and then he was finishing his dissertation in Charleston, and then it ended up getting a job offer back in Texas, and we knew
Just
we
doing
had
a
to come back
figure
here.
eight
So
throughout the country.
yeah, just doing a figure eight. I did basically like study of her passions and what inspires her at the onset of working with her, and it was like, tell me about who you love in architecture and art and history, what movements are you inspired by, and did a deep dive into her
Mm-hmm.
and tried to sort of distill that out into some marketing content, and learned so much about her process and um, her business and um, just her creative integrity. It was a great education,
No
and
kidding.
it
It
was a
sounds
short while. It was a short stint. Yeah, she's. I mean, I think the world of her. I think she's an amazing artist.
Yeah. Well, I love that your willingness to do pretty much anything in that world, knowing that you can glean so much, and the fact that you took that opportunity to really get to know her kind of ethos was pretty impactful for you. So when did Farrington Lane kind of come into the mix for you?
So Farrington Lane actually started while I was working at One Kings Lane. I had a little vintage shop on their Vintage and Market Finds um, side of the website. And when we realized we were moving to Austin, I was like, let me keep my job, let me work from Austin. And they were like, why don't you just keep, buying for us on this little shop that you've started? Which I call it, I think they were just trying to make me feel better about saying, no, you can't have your job. Why don't you keep your shop going? So I kept my shop going and on One Kings Lane platform, and had started doing just like a little bit of design. I think my very first like consulting job actually was like a church building in LA. They were starting this basically like a rec room, and just started helping friends on the side a little bit and here and there. And then when we moved back to Austin, I took a full time job with the uh, design company I referenced earlier, Bay Hill Design, and was still doing my vintage shop on the side, Farrington Lane. So kind of just kept that going through the years. And it slowly, when we moved to Charleston, um, that was when I flipped it from side gig to main gig
Yeah. Okay.
after working for Angie.
Yeah, that was going to be my question is, okay, so when did so you decided, okay, I'm going to make this a full-time thing. And at that point, were you still splitting it between kind of this online marketplace as well as design services?
Yes. Yes. I was adding on, yes. And then it just became um, to like as we had our first child, and it just became too hard to do both sides of the business.
Tell me about it. I
So
having run two businesses myself over the last couple of years, I nearly ran myself into the ground, and I realized that you do have to kind of, at least for some personalities, and mine's the same way. It's like I'd rather pour my focus and energy really well into one thing, because I just can't split my brain in that way. Okay, so
well, you're already splitting it a bunch of ways in one business. Like it's
yeah,
amazing the amount of hats you have to wear with one business, much less
just thinking
like
about the
nope,
the clients
nope,
alone, not even talking about like
yeah,
running the business side of things. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because um your business has evolved pretty quickly, I would say, from this little baby designer business to you really take up space. You really know, you have a very clear, distinctive design point of view. And I know how important it is to you that you work with clients who value that. So when it comes to taking on new projects and new clients, besides budget, what are you looking for in a prospective new client or project that's really going to light you up? And the opposite, like what are the things that you would just be like, I'm not interested in that, and how important is that for you in continuing to move this forward?
sure. Um, I get excited when a client says, we've followed your work on Instagram for years and we love, you know, what your passion for older homes, and we love your color and layering, and just you can get a sense for if somebody's like a kind person with a perspective on all of this, like this is icing on the cake kind of stuff for life. Like um this is just not a life or death situation. Like someone who has the disposition that things are going to go awry in this custom world, and a fabric's going to come in from the wrong dye lot or whatever it is, and that you think you're getting a sense that like they're going to be able to handle that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they have
That
perspective.
they have perspective. So those are some of the things that would be like, oh yeah, we're a good match. I've had a client, and I've had calls come in, which normally, you go from a place where like you kind of need to take whatever comes your way to, and also wanting to take everything that comes your way. I love taking as much as I can, but having three kids has really carved out like, oh, I have a very finite amount of time, and time is going fast. Not to get too existential on you here, but like I have a very
do it. Let's go
I
there.
can't multiply my time. Like that's the thing I can't get more of, time ever. So I'm really trying to take a closer look at how I use it and who I spend it with. And I would love to
I got my
I would
hands in
love
the
to
air.
say
I'm like,
yes.
let's go to church.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, because the faster
Um,
designers learn this and the more they value their time and their experiences, the better their careers are going to be. And I know for myself as well, it took me a little bit too long to figure this out, but go ahead, because you can't multiply your time.
yeah. Yeah. And so I'm having to get just really specific with, and it's scary because when you get specific, you're like, am I ever going to get hired again? It's vulnerable. You're like, I really hope that I get some jobs this year because I just turned one down and I don't have one lined up. And that's like a risk that feels like a leap of faith. But yeah, so like somebody who wouldn't be a good fit would be somebody who calls and is like, um, I had a call recently. I don't know if this is. I think I don't know this person well, but this prospective client called and was like, we really love value, but we want to get it at TJ Maxx, and we really just want our home to be a neutral, like expected place. And I was
Did they
like,
not know who they were calling? That clearly
well,
is somebody
yeah.
that hasn't done their homework on you.
right. And so, well, it was, a word of mouth referral, and I've heard wonderful things. Like and that's what happens sometimes with like friends. You just get word of mouth referral, and they don't really know you in like a professional context. And so, in the past, I would have said like, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. We'll definitely do that. And I have done that before, but you know, coming along and realizing that's not my wheelhouse. That's not what I get excited about. That's not even my natural gifting. Like I've had to, and that when I work outside those projects, when I've worked in those kinds of projects, it feels like I'm speaking a different language. So it's like
Mm,
mentally exhausting because I'm having
mhm,
to constantly, and I do translate in all of our projects because our projects are really client specific. We try to be
mhm,
very specific and not just like, you know, I, I have a hard time repeating anything, which
mhm. Good.
anyway, so I'm always translating, but that felt like just like really hard work
Yeah.
creatively to try
Yeah.
and speak that different creative language. And there's people, that do that beautifully. And it's super hard. I've actually learned too. I'm like, oh, when you have fewer things in the room, you have to be so careful and edited, and the composition has to be right, and the balance. It's just like, oh wow, it's a skill,
Hmm.
but it's
Hmm.
not like my wheelhouse. So
Sure.
having to tell
How
her,
did you,
I don't think I'm the best fit.
yeah. And how did you feel after that phone call?
Peaceful, but then telling my husband about it, he's like, well, maybe you should give her a call back. I think you could probably do that. It's like,
It sounds
like,
like my
no,
husband too. It's like, wait, you're going to turn
no,
down to
I am,
work? It's like,
yes.
no,
I'm
what
like,
I'm
no,
turning
I'm trying
down.
to hone this.
Yes.
Oh, and
I
then
know.
it's like doubt. It's like, oh, maybe I should have done that. And then I talked to a couple of friends about it actually, and they were like, no, you did the
No.
right thing. So
Yes,
it's
good. Good
helpful.
friends, good friends. Yeah, because I mean, you know this. You're not, you can look at it as, saying no, but really it's just leaving that door open for the right person. And
That
if you
is
are
so true.
and if you do say yes
Yeah.
to them, and it doesn't feel like a good fit from the start, it feels like an uphill battle. It feels like that is a suck on your creative energy, and it doesn't light you up. And that is, I think, has this snowball effect for everything that you do. And it just, I know when I first started, it's so hard to say no. It's so, especially early
It's
on,
really hard.
especially for bigger projects. And I've had to, when I first started saying no and turning down projects, it was so scary at first, and it was so, I doubted myself. I was wondering where's the next project going to come from, and I just, the world works in mysterious ways. Every time I would turn down a project, something better came along every single time.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Well, and
And
it really stinks when you're overloaded and then the perfect thing comes through the door and you say yes, and then you have too much on your plate and then you're drowning
so
because
let's
you said
talk.
yes to the wrong thing first.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're already overloaded. So yeah, talk to me about this evolution of balancing your time, and how you, and I know it's never perfect, and it may feel like you're drowning on some days still, but I have personally seen a huge evolution for you, then, through the things that you've shared with me. So tell me, what are some of the ways that you have adapted and grown in this area in terms of balancing your time as a mother, as a friend, and as a business owner and a creative?
Um, I would say I think like I still feel like my friendships and my physical health take a hit because I don't have as much time as I want for either of those. Those are like two things that I'm like, yeah, I need to do some more knob turning to adjust that, to give those some more investment. But I would say I've just learned to outsource a lot better. I used to just have a lot of guilt around feeling like, oh, outsourcing is just luxurious and we can't afford that and blah blah blah. And now I'm like, no, actually, it's 100% necessary to be able to be a mom and a wife and a friend and all the things, all the roles that are important to me, all the values that I have at the forefront of my life,
Mm-hmm.
that will support that. And
What are some
so,
examples of things that you'll outsource to help you in this process?
well, on a personal level, just like practical, it was just, cleaning service twice a week, grocery delivery. And,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody might need that. This is me. It is so hard for me to keep things orderly and like, so that's this, I'm like, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
support that this
absolutely.
family needs because of one of my weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, okay. I want to dial this in a little bit more because I feel like it's something I've tiptoed around. But when I talk about outsourcing a lot, I talk about find help where you need it, and I think our minds always go to, or the default or the quick response might be to hire an assistant or a design assistant or
Mhm.
hire somebody for your design business. But also that could be hiring and outsourcing things on the personal side of your life. Laundry, I mean, the laundry with 3 boys, I couldn't even imagine that. Laundry, grocery shopping, driving kids to their things, picking them up, doing, it's nice to be able to connect with your kids in the car from, if that is how you do it. But cooking, some people like preparing a meal brings them joy, and that's how they unwind, and that's how they feel grounded. And other people, like, that is a chore, and it is just another thing that they feel like they have to do. So coming up with like a custom plan for yourself to figure out what are the things that I hate doing and start
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
or the things that
Right.
aren't your natural
Yeah.
skill set.
Yep. Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely outsourcing for person. Yeah. And that was like a point of pride too. Like, I don't need, but I'm like, nope, pride's gone. Need all the help I can get. Um,
Yes, so you gotta
so
put those,
yeah,
but you do have an assistant that helps you and on the design side, correct?
and hiring for, and I've kept an assistant really for the past 7 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just recently hired a procurement assistant also. But they're both part time. Um,
Yeah.
and looking to maybe make,
The fact that
and
you
then we have
have done the quantity of projects that you have and the scope of projects that you have with such a small team is mind-blowing to me. So that alone is pretty commendable.
sorry about my
What are
name.
That's okay. And then what are their roles and what do they do to help you? Obviously, the procurement person helps with procurement.
Yes. Um, my design assistant, she started out more so project management, admin, and now she's coming in more on, so she did that for about a year. And now she's coming in more on the design side, like I'm looking for this kind of fabric, or can you start this bookcase concept? Just helping me on the front end more, and
Yeah.
the site visits and consultations, and so now we're kind of figuring out like um, we might have a little bit more room for another hire. So we may be bringing someone else on. I have a part time nanny also, and um, looking to, I think, hire this wonderful lady right out of college for this upcoming year who's going to be like half-time nanny, half-time Farrington Lane.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
I'm
really
excited
bringing
about
her into
that.
the fold.
Yes. Yes. And eventually, moving her to full-time Farrington Lane, but starting
Oh my
out that
gosh.
way
That
because
is so
she loves
cool.
kids, and it was like a perfect. And we didn't even post a job. Like that's the other thing with outsourcing and hiring. I've never posted a job.
Okay.
Like,
So how are you finding
which
your people?
God's grace.
Yeah. I love
to
it.
to be honest, I really feel like I'll identify a need, like, oh, I think we need help with this, and then it's just kind of like whoever I've been in contact, like it's just been relationships.
Yeah.
Like, I have
Yeah.
this need, and I think you could kind of fill that. Would you want to fill this need?
Yeah.
And that's just how. And I don't know if that's the best way to go about it. I'm not saying that's best practice. I don't know, but that's just the way we've grown.
Well, I feel like you're a pretty intuitive person and you can intuit whether somebody could be a good fit or not. And you are such a relationship-based person that to me makes a lot of sense for you. I don't know why, but I was just imagining how young your kids are. And you said they're all under 6, right? Oh, I know I was daydreaming about. I was listening to you talk and I was just like, all of this with these 3 little ones. I remember how we met for the first time. It was so random. Do you remember going to
I'm
Dallas?
trying. Oh yeah, yes, our road trip.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So we
So
we had
fun.
never met, but somebody introduced us and said, "You're 2 interior
Jeff,
designers in this."
Jeff Jones.
Okay, Jeff. Shout out to Jeff. He just did an
Yeah,
episode with him. Um, and so I don't know if it was text or email, but I think I texted you and I was randomly like, there's this thing for designers happening at the Dallas showroom tomorrow. Do you want to ride? Do you want to go with me? And you were like, yes. And you walked
yes,
into the
I
house
do.
and you were like 10 months pregnant. And I was like, oh, hi. And we never met. And
That's right. It was Brit.
we spent the whole day in the car together at
Yeah,
this event. And then on the car ride back, I'm pretty sure I cried on the way back because we were talking about something like so emotional and so like so personal. It was like this it felt like I had known you forever. It was wild. But listening to you talk about relationships, I was like, this checks out. This makes sense because it just felt natural from the very beginning. And so I just was reminded of that listening to you talk. Anyway, where I lost my train of thought.
I love that memory.
What were we talking?
That was a fun day. I remember connecting over um wanting to design pieces you love and not wanting to sell just like mass market stuff. I remember that. And we were like,
Yeah.
yes, me too.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And it's easy to walk away feeling that way after you've gone to the design center and you're like, everything looks the same. So,
Yeah.
I want to talk about your brand identity for a minute. I know that over the last year, maybe longer, I'm not sure, you have spent some time and invested heavily in your business in really working to dial in the brand identity. Can you talk a little bit about where that came from, what that impetus was for you and what it's meant for you and the impact that it's had on your business?
I think it stemmed from when I first started my business. I naively was just kind of like, design should be for everybody. I want to work with everyone at any price point, any budget. And I have figured out that design is really a luxury service. And in order to be um, profitable and in order to outsource the things that I need to outsource, and in order to hold true to the value of wanting to be able to stand behind what we sell for longevity, like making those investment pieces, um looking into the sustainability of items, trying to buy vintage, trying to buy once, buy right, all these values that I'm preach. I'm like, oh, it's expensive to do that. It's an investment. And the clients that understand, the clients that have those same values around their home, like some clients just don't have that value in their home, and they just they want it to look nice, but they'll replace their Target rug every couple years or whatever, and then maybe they have that value somewhere else, and that's just not value for them. So I figured out that client it's just at a higher price point. And so I decided, well, and I was at a crux too, where I was like, do we rebrand to Whitney Walker Design, or do we stay with Farrington Lane? And Farrington Lane is a street named after my great grandfather in Grand Cayman. That is where my mom's side of the family is from. And my grandmother loved design and beautiful things and all kinds. Just smile thinking about her, all kinds of little tchotchkes. And so,
oh, I love
my
that.
store that started was kind of a nod to that. And I just decided ultimately, like, no, this name means too much to me. I'm going to stick with it, and we're going to rebrand. And
I'm so glad you did.
So
it's
that was
such a beautiful name. I love it. I didn't know.
Oh, thank you.
I do remember now. I have asked you the story behind the name, and it is ringing a bell now. But I just Love
Yeah.
that story. And I think too, given your relationship with history, it's so on brand, forgive the pun, to have you
Yes.
reach back to history and have that be a name that represents what you're about.
That is ultimately the conclusion I came to as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when
But it
it
was a
comes to
hard, I
brand,
wrestled.
so what all have you done in terms of honing that brand in order to have this come across?
I worked with a wonderful graphic designer out of Charleston. Her name was given to me by a friend of mine. Hey, Minette. And her name's Chrismar Muldrow. And she basically did a study of our business values and of our aesthetic, did a deep dive into who we are. And um, that was through visuals and through values and question, she basically just did a study of us and then presented us with sort of three different directions and three different concepts. And we said, ooh, this is the one. Let's do this one. And she did all of our marks, our logo, um, did kind of a light overhaul of our website. I probably need to do a heavy overhaul with her branding, but that's down the road.
Yeah.
So,
and then for photography, you've worked with a stylist. Has that been a part of the branding process as well?
yes. Trying to get a consistent, like one photographer's perspective on our website, one point of view. So we've been working with Jeff Jones. And then our most recent shoot, we hired Adam Fortner, a stylist based out of Austin, who works with a lot of designers and architects in town that I admire a lot. And his attention to detail and interesting layers that he brings to imagery was just phenomenal. And he's really fun to work with. It was such a pleasure and made the photo shoot so much less stressful.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that was another outsource point for motherhood. Like the three kids put me over the edge. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't style. I don't have the time. Like, cause that means anyway, yeah. So
Can
that
you
was
touch,
hugely helpful.
I've never worked with a stylist. To me, styling is one of the most fun parts of doing a photo shoot, but having just done 3 over the last couple of months, it's
So exhausting.
exhausting and there's so much that
Yeah.
goes
And it
into it.
is so fun, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you're like, when I look at these, at least the one that I know he helped you with, I still see you. So how can you tell us a little bit about that process working with him, and how were you able to connect in a way that he made sure that he was representing you accurately? And
Sure.
the story too of the project.
Well, I started looking at stylists' work. So I kind of, I started with me that way, saying like, who am I connecting with? Who am I liking? So I sort of honed it in first to him. And then we just had kind of a discovery call, and I told him about the project. And um, he works with really big, big designers and architects, and
Like Whitney Walker.
yeah, like Whitney Walker. um, just bigger companies, and we're small. I've designed my business to be small. Like I'm not apologizing about that, but that's just reality. And so I just described him, this is the project. Does this sound like something you would be excited to work on and that you would want to be in your portfolio? And he was like, yes. And I was like, really? You work with me? Dang. So, and then we had just kind of a talk through the shot list, and I sent him all the scouting photos, and just talk through the feeling and the vibe, and he delivered.
And so does he, I hope it's okay if I ask you these questions. You don't have to answer any of them if it's like proprietary. I don't know, because I've never worked with a stylist. But so does he bring in his own objects or work with the objects you have, a little bit of both? And then like, how do
It was a little bit of both.
you edit?
It was collaborative.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the heavy lifting for sure, but there were a couple times where I was like, I don't know if I love that part. Or I'd say, what do you think about this? And he's like, no, this is better. He just had such an eye for detail and editorial in a way
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not trained in. So I
Right.
was like, I don't even notice that. And he would
Yeah.
see something. I'm like, oh, you're right. That looks way better. His eye was
Yeah.
just, it's just a completely different skill set, I think.
And so from a composition standpoint, he's thinking editorial in terms of how would this show up in press? Is that kind of the
No,
perspective?
I think I mean, that's kind of the direction that gave him, but I think, he would style to whatever medium you pushed. But that's
Yeah.
his background was print editorial.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. I can absolutely see the value in working with a stylist at that phase. Okay, so I want to ask you one last question, and then we're going to do rapid fire questions, which I know you're
Okay.
so excited about. I love that phase.
Thrilled.
I love that phase. You have mentioned now a couple of times, you've talked about your business values. I think this is something that we don't talk about enough in business. And so, but it clearly is important. We don't talk about it enough openly or outwardly. Can you share with us some of your core values and how does that show up in your business practically on a day-to-day basis?
Um, well, there's kind of two, like, there's like kind of my design values and there's my lifestyle values that go hand in hand with this. But I would say just at the outset of designing my business, I knew I wanted to, I knew I didn't want to put my kids in full-time childcare. And I've told you that from the beginning. That's just something that I wanted to do. And I remember a specific conversation with you because I was like, oh, I'm gonna do all the design. I'm not gonna hire a design assistant. And you were like, good luck with that. You're gonna have to outsource some of the design to an assistant if you don't put your kids in full-time childcare. And you were exactly right. But yeah, so in terms of my personal value with putting the business into our life was, I want time for my kids. I want time for our health, time for relationships, time for friendships. So I want to build with this set amount of time because this is not changing. And I've got to figure out how to turn these wheels to make this block work. And that, you have to decide, like, are you willing to sacrifice growth to make that happen? And my answer was yes. And, which, I mean, it hasn't had to always be yes. Now we're growing. It just, it's probably slower growing toward the beginning than it could have been because I made that decision.
Well, and to be clear, there's growth
But
in different terms. There's growth in terms of capacity and how many projects you take on and how many clients you're juggling. And that can look and how big your team is or how small your team is. And that can be completely different from your financial growth. And
right.
You can still stay small and grow financially over time if you do it right. So, but
yeah.
You're talking about growth in terms of like your team and maybe at this stage capacity.
Yes. Capacity. Yes. And you're right. We have been able to grow while staying small, which is like, so I'm so grateful. But core value in business is, staying true to the environment and the architecture of the home, the setting, the place. Mm-hmm. Regarding that highly, investing in pieces that you'll have for at least 20 years. I would love to help you find the pieces, even better than that, the pieces that you want to hand down to your children. So investing in quality handmade where we can, which, sometimes you can't do that for everything, but in your big items. Investing in original art is a core value for us. Repurposing vintage and antique is a core value. And having fun with our clients and adding some whimsy and giving them room, making room for the things in people's homes that are important to them, but maybe not the best aesthetic choice. Like, how do we make this thing from your grandmother that's totally ugly work? Because if it's a piece that you look at and you think of your loved one first instead of how much you dislike it, I'd say that's a keeper. If you
Mhm.
look at this piece and you think, then let it go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have a painting in my hallway that's like gigantic from my grandmother that I don't love. I would never buy it, but I think of her entryway every time I see it and it makes me happy. So it's in my hallway.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. What's it? But by the way, what's your Enneagram number?
I'm a 6, strong wing 7.
Yeah, I was.
Hang
I
on,
was
I,
what's this? What's a 6 again?
it's the loyalist.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, and I could see being loyal to not just people, but to your values too, and what we've
mm,
talked about
mhm,
today. Oh my gosh, I just got
mhm.
goosies. Oh, I love you, Whitney. I could do this
Thanks.
all
I love
day
you.
long. This is so fun. You are amazing. You just blow me away in how you've been able to beautifully and imperfectly balance all of these things. And I appreciate you so much just for coming and showing up and normalizing the life of a designer while balancing relationships, whether that's children or friends or family or all of it. Because I think that we're all trying to figure that out for ourselves. And it's so refreshing to hear some of the ways that you've done that for yourself. And I think that a lot of this will resonate with the designers who are listening today. Can I ask you a couple of rapid fire questions before we wrap up?
Sure.
Okay. In one word, good design is.
Memorable.
Love it. The one book that has changed your life.
Oh, oh gosh. Um, changed my
It can be a
life.
design. It can be a design book too. But that's saying a lot to change your life.
Yeah. Golly, I don't know.
Or
I don't think I
a book that has had a big impact in your life or your business.
Profit First.
Yes, love that. Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Talk about that all the time. Okay, and the one thing I'm looking most forward to right now is.
I leave for Mexico City in the morning.
What? Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. I have another
Yeah.
question. What are you going to do in Mexico City?
Yep.
I absolutely am dying to go visit. I want to go by myself though, without kids. Sorry, kids. Not by myself necessarily, but like I want to go with adults, and I just want to go explore the art and architecture and food and dance and music and all the things. So, what are you going to do?
Yes. Yes. That is pretty much what we're doing. That client I referenced earlier that loves color, that's a good friend. I had a moment earlier I guess it was in the fall, where I was like, I gotta get out of here. Do you have a trip planned? She was like, yeah, I'm going to Mexico City with my girls this date. You want to come? I was like, yes, I do. Please let me come. So I just tacked onto their trip
Oh my gosh, I
and
love
I'm
it.
very excited. I'm going to go see the Frida Kahlo Museum and Luis Barragan's house. And those are kind of like actually my two, like, yeah, got to do those. The
Yeah.
Museum of Anthropology I've heard is amazing. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I'm excited. I've been to Mexico City, but not in, I think it was like in 2020, maybe the last time. So I'm
Okay.
excited.
Been just a minute. One of my good friends, Molly, who's a Molly Casey. She's she's the owner and curator of at 9 Arts here. She's an art curator. Just went and had an amazing
Oh,
trip.
okay.
So
Oh,
I'll send
cool.
her a little text and say, is there anything she can't miss while
Yeah,
she's there? Because
please.
you guys are kindred spirits in that way. So, oh my gosh, we'll have so much fun. How long are you gone?
Thank you. Just 3 nights.
That's good.
But it feels like I'm like getting all of my ducks in a row to be gone, and it
Yeah.
feels like I'm going to be gone a month. But no, it's just 3 nights. It'll be
Everybody
good.
will be okay. Everybody will be just fine. We'll have so much
Yes,
fun. And I just
yes.
can't thank you enough for your time
Thank
and for your
you.
graciousness to come and hang out with me and to chat. Have a wonderful trip. I'll talk
This
to you
was really
soon.
fun. I appreciate the invite
All right.
and love
Oh,
what you guys are doing at Designers Oasis. It's helped me.
yeah. Real quick,
Yeah.
I forgot
But
to say before we go, where can people find you online if they want to come follow all things Farrington Lane and Whitney Walker?
we're the most active on Instagram, Barrington Lane. And I mean, you can check out our website, but yeah, Instagram is where we hang out the most in stories and posts.
Yeah. So it's farringtonlane.com. All right, Whitney, have a wonderful trip. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for letting me spend part of this day with you. If you're loving this podcast, please share it with a friend who you think might also love it. Or perhaps you can take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. And if you have just an extra minute, go ahead and leave a review. This helps me so much, and it helps other designers like you to find the podcast. It also adds fuel to my motivation to keep making great episodes just for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.